Paul, and I approve this message.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? We're back. I'm your host, Paco, and you're listening to Occupy the Media. Just want to let you know, if you're listening, tomorrow, I just got word right now from Jake Peters that he's going to be on for sure tomorrow, probably around the same time. So we might ask him possibly for some tips and advice of what others could be doing at their conventions coming up. But, okay, so let's go in and take off where you finished again.
All right, I do just want to add a couple quick things from earlier. Just before the voting of the slate of delegates happened, there was a couple people, Romney supporters, who punched some Ron Paul supporters. One elderly man punched a younger Ron Paul supporter in the back of the head, and I think he was in Oklahoma County. He was over on that side of the room at least. So there was a sergeant of arms who had to remove them, and some of Oklahoma County's delegation was not seated when the voice vote or the standing vote was called for the election of the slate. The chairman, Steve Dixon, had addressed the chairman and asked him to wait because their delegation was not seated, and he said he told him he had 30 seconds to bring the delegation back into the room. So some of them were there, but from my understanding, not everybody was. So back on to when we were supposed to be adjourned, when the adjournment was moved from the floor. They moved to adjourn the meeting at 5 p.m., even though there was a point of order made and there had been division called. The adjournment was moved. The voice vote clearly failed. Then a standing vote was called. While while the room dividers completely blocked the view from the stage of the third of the hall where Tulsa and other counties were seated. If you watch the video, you will see that those who were visible, the motion to adjourn failed to attain a majority, much less the required two-thirds. It turns out the motion to adjourn is by majority, but the state of the hall was such that no valid vote could be taken. So thus the convention was not properly adjourned at that time. At this point, Brady Wright was able to speak into the microphone still and tell the entire delegate body the convention is continuing in the parking lot and anyone is welcome to join him. I must say Brady is our hero of the day. He took charge, walked outside to the side of the convention hall, and waited for everyone to make it out there and join him. We couldn't be more thankful for what Brady was able to do. Once we were outside the convention, we had to pass a new credentials report because it had never been done properly in the first place. We went through all 77 counties in Oklahoma and approved the credentials report. We let the minority rules report be heard, which they failed to let be heard earlier in the day, and it passed. Jake Peters, who was acting as our temporary chair, was elected as the convention chair. We then proceeded to have the National Committee Man and National Committee Woman races. Richard Engel won the National Committee Man race. The National Committee Woman, Carolyn McClarty, who was unopposed, also
Okay, let me ask you one thing real quick, because now you guys are outside, right?
Right.
Okay. What happened with most of the Romney supporters? Like, people that are not, because I'm pretty sure almost every Ron Paul, if not all of them, stayed behind. But what about the Romney people, whether they were for the establishment or whether they were just regular folks but for Romney? Were they outside as well?
No, everyone left. As soon as the chaos started and the so-called claim to adjourn the meeting happened, everyone except Ron Paul supporters, and I suppose there could have been one or two people who were of the establishment mindset who joined us, but for the most part, every single person left.
Okay.
We did lose some of our people, some of our Ron Paul supporters, to continue the convention outside because they just didn't get the message that the convention was continuing outside. It was very chaotic when Brady was able to speak into the microphone and tell everyone that so loud. So it doesn't surprise me that some people, were confused and didn't know that we were all meeting outside.
Yeah, just chaotic going on, everything. And then people getting punched in the head and in the back. And all right.
Yes. And if it would have been, if thinking back on it, if we could have had someone run over to every door of the hall of the convention to make sure everyone knew, it would have been great. But it was something that happened so fast. You can only do so much,
Yeah. Okay, so you guys are outside now, and you guys got the committee woman and the committee man, right?
Right.
Okay, and so then what comes after that?
What comes after that is the vote of the election of the delegate slates. And so because we heard the minority rules report, and that was passed as the rules of the convention, the executive committee slate, which is the Oklahoma Republican Party slate, was able to be voted on at the same time as other slates, instead of according to how it is normally run, where only the executive committee slate can be voted up or down, and then if it's voted down, nominations have to be taken from the floor. So we were able to hear the executive committee slate and our slate, which was the conservative value slate. We voted for slates A and B on the ballots, so that the election of the delegates would be done according to the rules by a roll call vote. And the conservative value slate delegates won. We then voted on the slates of alternates. Again, the conservative values slate alternates won. And we did this all by a roll call vote with counting of the delegates, each county coming up and submitting how many votes they have for each slate. You can see this all on film. So after this, we had to hear the District 1 convention complaint. So Lucas Collins, another one of our grassroots leaders, was nominated and served as temporary chair while Jake Peters gave the complaint. Jake Peters had recused himself as chair to avoid a conflict of interest, and Lucas was elected as the temporary chair for that portion since he lives outside the district in question.
So you guys basically had to do everything over again outside,
correct.
but the correct way. And you guys weren't out there for 5-10 hours like you were in the building, or however long you guys were in there. So if you guys do it by the rules, it shouldn't be taking that long. It seems like you guys were getting along with business.
Right. We got along with business pretty well. It did take us about 5 hours. We were there. The convention continued outside at 5, and it adjourned about 10 o'clock. So.
Wow. Oh, okay. So you were out there pretty long. Now, how long were you guys in the actual convention, though? How long was that
We were
for?
in the actual convention. A lot of people were seated by around 9:30 and until 5 o'clock. But like I said, most of that day was either people talking because there was no credentials were still being figured out, or credentials being added, and it wasn't until 4 o'clock when our convention chair was elected. Okay. So from 9:30, 10:30, 11, when it was around 11 when voting was kind of actually started. So from that point until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the convention was kind of what seemed like in a limbo, waited out state, just waiting for credentials to be done.
Just waiting for them to finish whatever shenanigans they're going to do so we can knock it down, because they're trying to come up with whatever they can, man. It's just, I talked to Ginger from Maine last week, talked to Mark. Every convention, the same day they had two conventions, 2 people walking around passing fake slates. They're doing the same thing everywhere. They're trying to get away with this, but we got to fight back. And I don't know if you guys heard, I think just before you guys got on, there's reports going around. I guess Ron Paul sent an email out saying that he's not going to be campaigning in the primary states for the beauty contest anymore. So every single media outlet that we cannot get a hold of, all of a sudden now reporting that he's dropping out. So we really got some work that we have to do. But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about before we go to the break, and then we got another segment, and we can finish up or talk about whatever you wanted to happen there. What was the vibe with the Romney supporters? I mean, did you get the feeling that a lot of them were pretty much, paid to be there, or were there pretty, normal, common folk that just are, don't know what's going on, basically?
I don't know. I didn't get the feeling that any of them were paid to be there. I don't know. I honestly wasn't able to talk to that many people because I was busy trying to communicate with our people. But it was the biggest convention turnout for several years, from my understanding. So I don't know if it's just a more exciting year for people. People were getting more involved, or the exact reason why it was a bigger convention turnout.
And some people were definitely bussed in, though, right? I think I read that.
Oh, yeah. We had people were Romney supporters threw trash at one of our young ladies and told her she was just a bunch of trash.
Wow. Okay, hold that thought. We'll be back. We'll be back to finish up the show.